What happened this week? I returned to New York from beautiful sunny Charleston to just rain and dark, cloudy skies all week. Like it's been awful. And the only ray of sunshine that I had was watching Monte Carlo. Like that was my ray of
I mean,
sunshine. Did you
good
get to
choice.
watch did you get to watch a lot of this tournament?
Not loads because, to be honest, the way the tournament was scheduled, it was when I was at work. So, like, it was usually finishing by the time I got back from work a lot of the time. So, and this weekend I've had other things on, but also I have been choosing to watch Billie Jean King Cup a lot, because I've got to support the GB girls. So yeah, that's. But I've been catching what I can, and certainly from what I see of it, I think Monte Carlo has possibly one of the best stand views you'll ever see. Just looking out over the Mediterranean, um, from up high, like I mean, there's courts nestled in mountains, and that looks beautiful as well. But there's something about just looking out over that view,
Yeah.
is incredible.
Yeah, that view was just every time they were playing the matches and they would just like go to a wide shot, I just thought, oh my word. I mean, it just looks so I don't know, it's almost otherworldly because there are mountains on one side and then on the other side is just the ocean and then this beautiful clay court in the middle. And if you don't know, now you know clay court season is my favorite season. I think we've talked about this on this podcast before, but I like the natural surfaces, clay, grass, like that is my vibe. But clay season is just my favorite. I feel like, especially for the players who know how to work the surface, there's so much beauty they can create in the shots that they play. So just having that, the vista, I really wanted to go, but we have someone who went. We know someone who went. Nick, you were able to get a voice memo from who went to Monte Carlo.
Um, James, who is a friend of ours, on the uh, tennis internet, as it were, the on the forums on X, he's known as TennisRanter on there,
Good
and
name.
yeah, good rep name, and generally he is the go-to for all things Brit. But this is like the third time he's been to Monte Carlo, and he's written about visits before, on sort of Popcorn Tennis, which was a site, a tennis writing site he and I used to contribute to, back in the day.
Do,
It doesn't run anymore.
I actually
Um,
think I remember this. Last year, can you imagine? This is our second Monte Carlo episode, but we talked about Monte Carlo last year, and I think we included James's
James,
article.
so I heard James was going back, and obviously he's listened to a few of our podcasts before, and so I thought I'd reach out to him and say, hey, can you tell us what it's like this in 2025? Because things could change, and judging from what he said, things have changed a little bit.
Yes, here is James from Monte Carlo.
So what can I say about the Monte Carlo Masters? Well, it almost feels as though it is a bit of a constant battle between La Lega Blue and Forza Italia in terms of the almost Davis Cup atmosphere it can turn into. It's almost a home event for both French and also Italian players. And if you ever get a chance to end up on, you know, one of the courts where you have an Italian versus a French, it can really turn into a fantastically raucous atmosphere. The match I was on this year was Gasquet versus Arnaldi, and there was a point you would think that there'd be more French fans in the stand than there would be Italian, but there was generally louder cheers for the Italian fans than there were for the Italian player Arnaldi than at times for Richard Gasquet. And it's just you get in that atmosphere, you feel the buzz of the crowd, the stomping of the chairs, and you can really feel the passion for the tennis. And at a time when sort of tennis is moving either away from this smaller format as we're seeing for the Masters, or potentially looking at going to areas of the world which don't have that sort of tennis culture. It is a real stark reminder of why we love it and why we want those atmospheres and those and those vibes and whatnot to work the way they do in places like Monte Carlo. But I was going to give you some top tips. You have to, if you can, end up trying to go on both of the main courts if you can over a couple of days. Of course, you've got Court Ranter, the main court, which even at the top of the stand, you still get a great view of the court, and you see the scenery and the up into the mountains, and if you're at the top of the stand, you can see over the banisters to have a look at the Mediterranean Sea. And if you're on the stand that's closest to Duprances, then you can look over and have a look to see what's happening on that court. And it's one of the sort of best sights when you're on Duprances, or you're on maybe court 2, and you're seeing people staring over the top of the banister, to top of the sort of like stands to have a look at what is going on. And I always say that the sort of what feels like the best kept secret in tennis, especially given with the 56 format of Monte Carlo, is the great matches and the great atmospheres that you can get on Duprances. It's you're very condensed, and the noises are fantastic. You're literally sitting mere meters away from sort of top what can be top 10, top 20, top 30 players playing in their absolute prime. And the idea that this could be almost like the tennis masters also the tennis paradise of the clay season very much rings true. When it comes to the type of tickets, the most common ones in which you will note will be the ones for Rainier, where you can get either ones that are right courtside, which tend to be the most expensive, and then there are also ones that are a little bit further up the stands, which tend to go down in price, but still can be the back end of the week can be quite pricey. But the best bargain is Duprances, which is the second court, where pretty much barring the first couple of rows, every single ticket on that court is the same price, and it tends to be half the price that you would pay to get on Rainier Trois. And if you go at maybe looking at round the 16 day, where you've got 4 fantastic singles matches on there, that's a bargain. Or even any point earlier in the week, it's a real worthwhile ticket. They have changed things for the new court. They recently changed the court 2 to Etel Massé. That one you have to have a ticket to one of the top 2 courts, and then actually purchase an extra ticket to get on Massey this day. So I'm not a fan of that. I felt court 2 under its old format worked really well, when any fan could rock up to that court, and it generally gets some great atmospheres on there, and you always hear the shouts and the cheers from that stadium. But just to wrap up, if you can, you have to at least go to Monte Carlo for an attempt to experience that Masters 1000. And yeah, just could recommend it anymore.
Now, another thing that I love the mostest is team tennis vibes, and listening to James talk about what the crowd is like between sort of like the French and Italian players when they're there, and it's a little bit like Davis Cup. I now have to go to Monte Carlo. Like, that is an atmosphere that I want to be in the middle of.
Yes. I mean, well, obviously it's your kind of atmosphere for kind of when it all gets noisy. And certainly it does feel like a mini French Open with some of the crowd there. There's even been a few of the classic French chant that we will probably hear echoing through the stands of Roland Garros popping up now and again. But also, I think, when you see who does well at Monte Carlo, that's where a lot of the overlap happens.
So let's dive into a little bit to Monte Carlo. Now, Monte Carlo is it's a Master 1000 level event for the ATP only. It is a non-requirement. So if you follow us on, either Instagram or TikTok, I made this a little bit a part of our coffee catch up, where I give a little bit of a rundown of what the Monte Carlo Masters is. it's 1 week long, and because it's 1 week long, it meant that the matches just came hard and fast immediately. Like the seeded players had buys, but some of these first round matches, Nick, I was not ready. I had just come back from Charleston, and I really wasn't ready for Carlos Alcaraz versus Cerundolo or any of the other absolute blockbusters that we saw right from the jump.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously, yeah, 'cause Alcaraz Cerundolo, I think that had blockbuster already over it. We did potentially see a wobble for Alcaraz, but then that stopped after that first set with Cerundolo. The big moment though was Zverev getting knocked out by Berrettini in what was a first round epic, or second round technically, I suppose, because Zverev had a bye. And Berrettini, I thought he'd be dangerous anyway, because Berrettini's no slouch on the clay court, but the way he kind of kept up with Zverev and kind of was able to live with just what Zverev does was really, really impressive. And that 48 shot rally that Berrettini won basically set him up to win the match from that point, like in the deciding set. That is what everyone was talking about. It is one of the two quotes matches of the week on the ATP side, I would say. The other one we'll probably talk about a little bit later, involving a match that Anastasia was probably frothing at the mouth at when that started happening. There was a lot of excited texts between the two of us about that match. But the Zverev-Berrettini match was also pretty special and a great way to kind of set the tone for Monte Carlo, right?
Yeah, no, it really did. But it's really funny too. I had this feeling, and maybe because I had just come back from Charleston, I maybe needed a little bit of a break, but so I was like, oh, I'll just turn on Monte Carlo and it'll just be, some quiet first round matches. No. Because it's a 1 week event, what these 1 week events do is that it just throws you into the wolf's den right away, and you're fighting for your life, at these matches. And, that Zverev Berrettini match definitely set the tone, I think, for the rest of the week in the tournament. Zverev did lose in his quote unquote, it's technically his second round match because he got a bye for the first round. Sorry. But he's having a moment. The poor kid. Has he won a match? Well, I guess he has at some point, maybe one or two since he lost the finals of.
He's not won many matches though. I'll
right.
Just look it up now.
I think I talked about this too in a recent episode of how tennis isn't just about just hitting the ball. There is such a mental part to it too. And it really does seem like he is going through something, and you wonder if he can ever get out of the funk that he's in. But it is such a case study in how you also have to be mentally strong in tennis to win as well. You can't just have the best forehand and the best backhand or the best serve. That doesn't always work in tennis. And that's why as a sport, I really do love tennis because of that. There's such a psychology to it as well.
To confirm, Zverev has played 6 tournaments since he lost the Australian Open final to Yannick Sinner. He's won 6 matches. Some tournaments he's gone in the first round, others he's got a bit further, like Miami was his best tournament. He won 2 matches, got to the 4th round. But that's been the highlight, I'm afraid, for Alex. On average, he's winning 1 match per tournament at the moment, which is, solid for someone of his ranking, but not spectacular. So
no.
But you're right. Like right now, he just doesn't seem to have what he had for most of last year, and sort of being able to just win matches.
Yeah.
And that's going to affect him for the rest of the season, I think, because he didn't have many points to defend from this early part of the season in 2024. So we'll see how Clay treats him. He's coming up to Madrid, which is probably one of his favorite tournaments, and we'll see if that changes anything. Someone who maybe has changed their mindset, who also loves Madrid, is Carlos Alcaraz back?
He's back. You know
He
what?
woke up, guys.
But here's the thing, too, because, and I think this is something for fans to sort of consider as well, but did he really go anywhere? Because if you think about it, he got
You're
to...
right, because I looked at his, because I've got a spreadsheet I track things on throughout the season, and I'm looking at like people's peak results, what will get them like a good chunk of points in one go. And actually, Carlos has been one of the most consistent big point scorers through the season. He's got quarterfinals in Australia, one Rotterdam, semi-finals at Indian Wells, and in a first for us, because we now actually have a result where we're recording, he's won Monte Carlo. So, he's actually chalking things up. So his results are better than maybe we would initially think the way we talk about it, because we're so used to him being the top player. It's very similar to the way we talk about Iga Świątek sometimes on the women's side.
And I think it's like
solid results are not good when you compare them to spectacular.
Exactly. And that's sort of where you kind of level set a little bit, because yes, he did go out for his first round, which is second round. Did he get a bye? Yeah, they all got a bye, right?
Yes, they bye.
Miami.
Ben Cerundolo loses the first set.
In Miami.
Oh, Miami. Oh, yeah, Miami. Yeah, Goffin was a weird match.
Yeah. So he got a bye in Miami and then lost to Goffin in the second round. So yes, that is his one early exit this season. But sometimes the way people talk about it, you would think he was like Zverev, losing first round or at least not making it through the first round match. But he's done pretty well, although I think in the theme, in a weird kind of sort of theme of the Monte Carlo Masters, is this sort of everyone working on their sort of mental game. Because at the end, Carlos did talk about how he has not been feeling great, and he was maybe looking at the rankings a little bit too much and what other people were saying he was supposed to be doing. And that is why he kind of was in a little slump in quote unquote. I mean, like if that was my slump, I would take it. Quarterfinals at the Australian Open, semis, I would take that slump. But and that goes on to another player, Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, who loves Monte Carlo and really did great at this tournament. But after his wins for his first couple of matches, he was very disappointed. He was like, I did not play well. My mind wasn't there. But they're all talking about it. Same thing with Lorenzo Musetti, who made it to the finals. After each win, it was such an emotional release for him going through. And I was just like, wow, the boys are going through it in Monte Carlo is what it felt like to me anyway.
And Clay makes you go through it by its very nature, because the rallies are longer. It's so physical. You have to hit through the ball a lot more. By that, which probably is a term probably doesn't mean a lot to most people listening, but it feels like you have to put the effort in, or at least put the endurance in, and the mind has to follow with that. And it's not surprising that. But it was great to see Alejandro, who's having a great season, get another good result, really push Alcaraz, and get a couple of good wins, despite, as he said, not playing well. Lorenzo Musetti, being so emotional and getting to the final, he did so well to get set off Alcaraz in the final today. And someone else, I mean, look, if you want someone who was going through it, that person was probably Anastasia in the quarterfinals, when Carlos Alcaraz played Artur Fils, and that match, Fils could have won that match. He really could. He was pretty close to winning that match, and I had that on in the background when I was at work. It was I couldn't pay much attention to it, but occasionally when I would look up to be able to I've got 10 seconds I can watch a rally. The rally was insane. The rally was just like saying crazy ball striking from both. Both of them were all over the court. You had Feast trying to throw everything in his forehand to Carlos's backhand because he didn't want Carlos to go anywhere near the forehand. Both were all over the court. Carlos was just not having it.
Yeah.
And that was such a fun match. And that was me half paying attention, only paying attention, being able to pay attention to some of it. What was that match like for you, Anastasia?
It was so fun. It was, it was almost, and maybe this is why I like exhibition tennis, because I just love fun tennis. I think I posted afterwards to our Instagram one of the rallies, and I posted, if the ATP, whoever, Rolex, Monte Carlo Masters, if they want to sell tennis, they post this match for free. Just put it up there for free so everyone can watch it. And you cannot watch that match and not be a fan of tennis at the end. It was insane. You were like, what are they playing? What is this sport? Because it's not so much tennis as it is dancing and acrobatics and how they got to some of the balls. You're just like, how did he get that ball? How did the ball get into the court after he hit it that way? It was phenomenal. It was so fun. And again, with the whole emotional baggage or emotional response that everyone makes, Arthur Feast could have won that match. He was in control of the match. It was 5-5. He had won the first set. It was 5-5 in the second set, and he had 3 chances to break. It was love 40 to Alcaraz serve, and he had 3 chances to break. And Carlos was able to save all of those break points and get back on serve. And then you kind of knew that was it. Like, he broke Arthur Feast's spirit, that he could not convert any of those break points. And then Carlos broke to take the second set, and he was able to win the third, even though in the third set, Arthur Feast had the early break first. Like, it was such a fun match.
You say that Feast kept fighting. He kept fighting, and we've been seeing his fighting spirit over the last few weeks. Like, he's got to 3 consecutive Masters quarterfinals now. And he's had some really, like that, I was raving about that Tiafoe match he had in Miami. So yeah, he's a lot of fun. I don't think this will dampen his spirits too much, I would hope. But I highly doubt it. I think he's going to come back, and yeah, I agree with you that sort of, they were everywhere in that match. It was everything that you would want from clay court tennis, at least.
Yeah. You know who's now a clay court, or as he calls it, clay dog? A clay dog is Alex de Minaur. Who knew?
Yes, Mr. Bolter.
Mr. Bolter. He's a clay dog. His matches, I was sort of like, I was like, Alex de Minaur is going to win Roland Garros. That's how good he was playing. Like, it was insane, his level. And I just was like, where did this come from? Where did this all of a sudden just proficiency on clay, where did it come from? Which is very interesting. So a little backstory for Alex de Minaur. He is Australian, but he was raised and he trains in Spain. So he has been practicing on clay for the longest time, but he never was anyone who was sort of like, okay, yes, he's going to be super awesome on clay. Until this Monte Carlo Open, I was very, very shocked by his level. And then the match, which maybe Grigor Dimitrov was a little bit compromised because he had a couple of long matches under his belt, but he beat Grigor Dimitrov love and love. He double bageled him, which you just don't see on the men's tour. You just don't see a double bagel ever. And that was a weird match. It was 44 minutes long. And I don't...
Massetti broke that run, to be honest, because he crushed Massetti in that first set.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing, where it's like, so that was the quarterfinals. Semifinals, he plays Lorenzo Musetti. He wins the first set 6-1, and I'm thinking, again, Alex de Minaur is going to win the French Open.
It's not massively surprising to me because he did get to the quarters last year.
Yeah, but the way he did it, I mean, he just wasn't, he beat Daniil Medvedev 6-2, 6-2. Like, the score lines he was putting up were insane. I thought, this is crazy. But then again, Lorenzo Musetti shut it down.
He did, and that's probably why he got so emotional. I mean, to be honest, Anastasia, I am surprised you were paying that much attention to de Minaur's tennis.
Well, there was the there was the shorts as well. There was the magical shorts.
What on earth? What on earth are those shorts?
I don't know.
It looks like something's happened where like some kits have got mixed up. So I've obviously been watching Billie Jean King Cup, and those shorts look like they go on the girls for the Billie Jean King Cup team, which Katie Bolt is playing in, and I am wondering whether someone's laundry got mixed up.
Which is so funny because even Katie Bolter, like he posted a photo of himself after one of his wins, and Katie Bolter replied, "Great win, but what about those shorts?" And if you don't know what we're talking about, so A6 is the company that sponsors Alex de Minaur, and they have they have a what do you call them? Like a collaboration with APC. Now, APC is a French brand. It's a contemporary French brand, kind of like if you're in the States, a little bit of an elevated J. Crew kind of vibe. So they do khaki, very sort of clean cut, very chic clothing. It's very chic. It's very nice. They have this collaboration and they also actually sponsor a player that we're going to talk about later. Because I was saying, maybe I need to see this kit on someone else. But the way this kit fit on Alex de Minaur, it was just so oversized. Like everything was it looked so oversized. But then the shorts were really short. So it wasn't like a Jack Draper US Open oversized, which was just sort of like that 90s oversized fit. This was just oversized and then really short shorts. And I think the shorts had a lot to do with the winning. So he's probably going to keep them through the clay season, I think.
We'll see if Katie will allow that. So, yes, I mean, look, if you didn't know, you clearly don't follow our Instagram, because I'm pretty sure there was a post about Alex's shorts at least once a day on our Instagram. There you go. If that's our reason to follow us on Instagram, I don't know what is. Something else that was really cool that came up on Instagram, which is something that, when we're talking about meeting the professionals, Monte Carlo produced a video which showed behind the scenes of the tournament stringers, some of whom have been working there for ages, for years. Now, it is in French, so I think there are English subtitles.
Yes, they are English subtitles, yeah.
But yeah, and I think you shared it and it was on there, but I thought it was really cool. No other tournament's done that. No other tournament's offered that kind of insight into how something works. And, talking to a stringer is something that we've talked about hoping to do one day on the pod. And I think it was a really nice thing to do, to kind of give it a little bit of insight in that world of what goes on behind the scenes. It's just a few guys having fun at work. That's what it is. And it looks so normal. It probably is normal to them, but it's such a specialist area, especially to us tennis fans. It's so cool. I mean, I still don't understand how strings work, but that was a really cool video. So I would recommend going and checking that out if you haven't already. Maybe we can link it.
Yeah, no, definitely go check it out. And I will link it in the show notes. It was just such a lovely, first of all, it was just a well-told story about a part of the tournament, and I really loved it. It reminded me of, I've been to all of these tournaments, and believe me, guys, I have probably only shared a quarter of all the video and things that I've taken throughout these tournaments, and I'll try and filter them through at some point while I am finally home. But I did talk to the stringers at the Delray Beach Open. I had almost like an hour-long video just talking to them. And I don't know if I will ever release it because the sound was really bad, because it was really hot in Del Rey and they had this massive fan that was just keeping them cool, but then it made the sound on the video just absolutely horrible. So I don't know if I will be able to share it ever. But it was very similar. Just the lives that they lead. They are the first people there because they have to be there once the tennis players arrive, and then the last ones to leave, because I never really understood kind of, if once they're done stringing the rackets, like, do they just go home? And they're like, no, as long as there's a match happening, they have to be there. And I remember I was talking to one of the guys, and it was after Kei Nishikori's match that he had played in Del Rey, and he had played a night match. And Kei Nishikori apparently is very specific, like even more so than others, like very specific about how he wants his rackets strung and who strings them. And he actually will bring them by himself. So he had to be on the ready if anytime during the match he sent something back to be restrung, So it's a very interesting part of tennis that we don't see. And these guys are they're awesome. They string so many rackets, so many rackets during a tournament. So I will link that below for sure. Now,